Hey guys, welcome to SheThoro.com. I am super excited about this interview today. I have the gentleman that is sitting to the right of me is someone that's near and dear to my heart, almost like a brother, someone who is not only impacting those around him, but those in his community, Mr. Kelvin Waites. How are you?
I'm good today. I'm just glad to be here in the A, and I appreciate the invitation, and I'm glad to be here.
Yes, I've been wanting to interview you for so long. I've heard so many great things about you, the things that you've been doing, and I think it's about time that, we share your story to the world. So let's get into it. So, Army vet, your father, philanthropist, motivational coach, chief police. How do you hold so many hats?
Somebody asked me about 2 weeks ago, how do you find the time to do everything that you do? And, I kind of laugh and chuckle to myself, and I said, well, when you love doing what you do, you make time. It comes natural, it flows, and you just make time and you get it done.
So let's start with chief police. So you're the first African American chief police officer in Georgetown, South Carolina, which is the third oldest city in the state of South Carolina. Like, what do that feel like?
It feels good when I think about it in the perspective of a young person, right, that looks just like me, seeing me as an example and knowing that they can, they can do this. They can be whatever they want to be. When I was a kid, I was small. At a certain point in my life, I didn't have much hope. You know what I'm saying? I didn't dream big, and I didn't think that my life would amount to anything. So in terms of that perspective, I'm glad to be here. I know I'm doing it for a reason. But on the flip side, I really don't want to be known as the first black or first African-American police chief. I want to be known as one of the best police chiefs in the town.
Okay. So you don't feel like that's just a huge accomplishment, so tell me a little bit how that came about. So someone that's watching and just like, oh man, that's big, I'm a police officer, I'm an aspiring police officer, and, my goal is to, go up the ranks and become a chief. What do that look like?
Well, I can tell you being totally transparent and honest, when I went to college initially, I went to college to do what you do. I wanted to be a sportscaster on ESPN. I wanted to work for BET. I wanted, do something in journalism. So I took up broadcast communications. Never in my life did I believe I'd be a police officer. Went to college for a couple of years and ended up going and serving in the United States Army, and realized that I had a heart and a passion to serve. So I did my time in the Army, and I got out and I started law enforcement, and 22 years later, I'm the police chief.
So what's your take on, society now? We're going to get into you being a great motivational speaker. I follow you on social media, guys, and we're going to get to all his social media handles, because if you're not following him, you need to. Very, very inspiring. But in terms of, being a chief police and the way society look at police officers now. Just to speak on Georgetown, the demographics of African Americans is 57.5. So do you feel like you have an advantage? Do you think that it's challenging because of the way society now view police officers? And then how do that go into your role as being a motivational coach?
Okay, it's challenging nationwide, because we live in a global society, and so often, something can happen in El Segundo, California, that has nothing to do with Georgetown or anything, but instantly it's on social media, everyone sees it, and it may be a situation that looks or frowns down on law enforcement in a negative way, and people associate that locally. And it's the older folks used to say it's hard but it's fair, because this is the profession that that we chose, and it's an everyday process in terms of earning the community's trust every day.
Nice. So how do you differ from other officers?
I don't know if I differ, Toya. I have a passion to serve people. I know that my role as the police chief is to, on paper, what does it say on paper? My overall role is to make sure that I provide safety and protection for the citizens of Georgetown. but it goes deeper than that. My job, I see as chief of police, is to make sure that I'm leading the way. I'm at the point of the spear in terms of engaging the community.
Nice.
The last thing I want my police department to be are strangers in the community that we serve. And we all know from historic events that when chaos comes in the time to try to build relationships, those relationships have to be built ahead of time. So I work hard, and we work hard to engage the community on so many different levels, just to, when and if something does happen, we can sit down at the table and talk.
Nice. I love it. I could feel the vibes. I could feel that it's something that you're passionate about just by, just the vibes in this room, guys. Those that's watching, I know you can't feel it, but I know that this is something that is, purposeful and something that, you was just destined to do. Talk to me a little bit about Hit 'Em Before They Hit You. I had the opportunity to read the book, and very, very, very powerful book. You talk about your father, who was your biggest mentor. Tell us a little bit about him.
My dad, his name was Isaac Waites, Senior. He passed away in 2008. But he was, when I decided I wanted to write a book, it took me 7 years. I was spinning my wheels. Couldn't, I'm writing here and writing here. And I wanted to write about leadership. And my wife says to me one day, she says, well, who's the greatest leader that you know? You need to write about whoever that is. And just like that, I knew who it was because, it was Isaac Waites. And what I had been trying to do in 7 years, I did in 90 days. I started writing after she said that to me, and I couldn't stop. And it's because, this guy, he had every reason to be bitter about life. Every reason to be bitter about life. But he wasn't. And the reason I say that is because, and you read the book, when he was about 12, his house burned home. He lived with his grandmother and his 2 siblings, and he had to go to work. So there wasn't prom, right? There wasn't hanging out at the park. There wasn't organized sports. From the age of 12 until he passed away, he worked.
You had to be like an adult, like at an early age.
To take care of everybody else. And so, like I said, he had every reason to be bitter, but he pushed me, and he would say, hey, your job is to do better than I did. And he would not let me settle. Even when I had difficult times in my life, he pushed me. And so I had to write the book.
Nice. I love how you put on the back of the book is Hit 'Em Before They Hit You. It's about having the will to accomplish our goals while possessing a quiet confidence that demands respect. Talk to me about a quiet confidence, because, when we think of confidence, we think in terms of being bold, and we think in terms of, just putting yourself out there. Talk to me a little bit about quiet confidence.
Yeah, that quiet confidence comes from my father. Back to Isaac Waites again. I watched this guy raise us. Things weren't always good. I grew up in Harlem for my first 10 years of my life. And
Didn't know that.
Yeah,
Till I read the book.
Grew up in Harlem, and I had I had really bad asthma. The slightest dust would trigger a violent asthma attack with me. And I often tell people, they laugh, but I wore leg braces on my legs before Forrest Gump ever did in the movie.
Wow.
I had crooked legs. And so, the highlight of my day was coming home from school and wondering, me and my older brother, wondering whether or not the elevator was working. Because 5 out of 7 days, the elevator didn't work in our building. And some days, most days, we'd have to walk up the steps. Well, he was fine, but I had asthma. I would have asthma attacks in the stairwell. My legs would hurt. I would stop some days and cry. But things weren't always good. Life changed when we moved to Charleston. And the quiet confidence I saw with my dad was that I never saw him raise his voice. I never saw him panic. I never saw him upset. Whatever situation that came, he dealt with it. And I never understood why when I was a kid, but when I got older, I figured it out by some of the things he would say to us. And I remember him saying to me one time, he said, Kevin, we're just actors in God's play, acting it out. And if that's really the truth, if we are really actors just acting it out, why would I flex? Why would I get upset? Why would I panic? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that's where, for me, personally, that's where the quiet confidence comes from. I'm just an actor playing God's plan out.
Nice. If your dad was here, what would you say to him?
That's tough. I would tell him I appreciate everything. And I love him. And, I got my son over there and a daughter and a family. And it's because, of him and the love he showed us and how important he showed his family was, I would just thank him. I can't even think of everything I would thank him for, but I would just thank him.
I love this was a pivotal moment for me when I read the book after everything, you know my story. I teared up because I say now, after everything I've gone through, that my best days are when it rains. And so in your book, you said that you had went out and, you took some time off because a lot was going on.
Yeah.
And I think you was putting something on the grill, and it started raining. And you said that your dad, when it rained, it was a smell or something that he loved about. It was the smell of rain.
Yeah.
And you was saying how you was just going through so much in the book. Gosh, I really have to read the book. And that when it rained while you were out there, you just felt weight lifted off of you. Tell me what that moment felt like.
What happened from the time my mom called me and said, hey, your dad's gone. I remember I live about an hour and 15 minutes away from Charleston. And so I'm driving, and I said to myself, okay, Lord, I know once I get there, it's on and popping. I'm going to be busy. I'm going to be doing this. And so let me go ahead and cry and get it out of the way. Never cried. And so I get there, and we're scrambling around, and we're doing this, and families coming from out of town, and a lot's going on. Never dropped a tear. We plan the funeral. We go to the funeral. One of the hardest things I ever had to do was speak at my dad's funeral. Couldn't really mourn. And that day, I did take some time off, a few days, and I was just sitting there, and I was outside grilling in the garage, and it just started raining. He would always say as a kid, hey, when it rained, we would be outside doing something. He would say, you smell that? You smell that, Bubba? Kind of like that. Yes, sir. And I smelled it. And I really felt like at that moment, he was right there.
Ooh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and man, it just all
real,
came down on me at one time. It was like the harder it rained, the harder I cried. You know what I'm saying? But I needed to do that. And it was all good after that.
I love that. And so let's take that into, now you have weights lifted. You are a certified motivational coach, speaker. What was that feeling like when you first, became certified? Like you said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to really, outside of what you were already doing as an officer in the community, hey, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to brand myself. Why, one, you felt like the time is now. And do you think that it's important, dealing with the youth and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's really important. I had watched the program, a specific program, for about a year, kind of debating whether or not, I was going to proceed and move forward with it. But I really felt like I had been doing it my whole life. You know what I'm saying? It didn't come, it came natural. And so going through the process of getting certified was just to teach me some structure. You see what I'm saying? And it did. The time, and I don't know. It just seemed right. And I stepped out. It was 2019 where, my word was, God wants you to just walk out into your blessing. Not even knowing what it is sometimes. Just walk out into it, and so I did. And, the name, a lot of people think that I came up with the name, but I didn't.
That was going to be my next question. How did you come up with the name?
I was at work one day, and my daughter called me. My daughter, Jasmine, she's in law school. And she said, hey, Daddy, I need to talk to you. I said, okay, what's up? And she said, do you already have a name for your business? And I said, no, I'm kind of brainstorming and debating and scribbling different things down. She said, well, God told me to tell you something.
Ooh.
And I said, what's that? And she said, you need to call your business Waites Lifted. My last name is Waites.
Right, yes.
And so we play on that and spell it the way it is, but it's Waites Lifted Life and Leadership Coaching.
That's awesome.
That's where the name came from.
That's awesome. So now you have clients, now you're doing one-on-ones and inspiring different people. What's two most powerful questions you ask your clients who are looking to, achieve their goals?
Number one would probably be, what is it in life that you really desire? We a lot of times go through life kind of going through the motions. You know what I mean? Going to work, coming home, sleeping, going to work. But what is it? So many people walking around with businesses inside of them, books inside of them, whatever. And what do you really desire. And I'd follow that up with, something about their happiness. And are they living in life to make other people happy, or are they living and trying to walk in their destiny to make their own selves happy? Yeah.
Awesome. So you have a son, or both of your kids are doing well, but in particularly with dealing with men and youth and young boys, do you think there's a stigma? Okay, so let me start over. There's motivational coaches, like you have your Eric Thomas, and have all these great motivational speakers and coaches now. Do you think they've replaced psychologists, and do you feel that the youth or young men will feel more comfortable going to speaking to a motivational coach versus a psychologist, or you think they should do both?
I believe that what's really missing in the communities across the country are men stepping up. I don't necessarily believe it's a psychologist or a certified coach. I think young men just need to be in the presence of grown men. You know what I'm saying? And get that hand on them and get that leadership. It's just really, to me, from my perspective, it's about men stepping up to the plate and just being there. We all know, and it's cliches, but it's more to being a daddy. Just a title. You know what I'm saying? It's more to it than just a title. I always say, we have to show up. Number one is show up. Your presence. I don't care if it's a dance recital or you got to show up. Number two, we have to encourage them. We have to encourage our kids, especially our young men, and tell them, because they are going to be what we tell them they're going to be. If we say there's greatness in you, guess what? If we say it enough times, it's going to click. It clicked with me. So we show up, we encourage them, and the last thing is we can't just tell them. We have to show them. I can't tell my son, hey, you go out, you be a good guy. You do the right thing. You help people. If I'm not doing it. So I got to set that example. That's what Isaac Waites did for me. Even though he had a 6th grade education, he wasn't bitter on life. He earned an honest living as a mechanic, and he showed me. You know what I'm saying? It's like he gave me the model or the blueprint, and that's what's needed.
Now, and so how do kids overcome that? You had a great dad, so you were able to still pass that along and instill that into your son. But how do kids overcome when they don't have that leadership, or they have maybe a basketball coach, but now it's so many crazy, you can't trust anybody. It's so many crazy things that men are doing out here. So I love how transparent you are, and you saying even in your book, like, look, I cry. A lot of men and, especially black men, they don't do that. So now you have mental illness and stuff like that. It's on a high. So how do young men overcome that? Like, what are some things they can do for those that's watching, to really, overcome whatever they're battling, especially when it stems from childhood?
Yeah. What they can do is reach out. Reach out to someone that find someone that they trust and respect. A lot of times, you'd be surprised, I talk to kids sometime, and I ask a question. And the question is, how many of you in this room believe that your life is going to amount to anything? And if you don't believe it, raise your hand and just be totally transparent. And you would be surprised as the kids that raise their hand. And I when I see them when they do that, because that's where I was at. And if I can come out of it, I know they can too. But to answer your question, they need to find someone they respect and they trust. A lot of times kids get fascinated, and I love entertainers. I love sports. I love sports. And I love entertainers. But kids get so fascinated and caught up with entertainers and sports, and they look at them as their role models, but they can't put their hands on them. You see what I'm saying? They can't put their hands on them. They're not going to help them with their homework. They're probably not going to be able to get them on the phone to get it, And so we got to kind of change the way they think. And you put your hands on somebody in your community that you respect and you trust. Reach out to somebody and just let them know what's going on with you.
Awesome.
And on the flip side, we have to do a better job of going out and finding.
And that was going to be my follow-up, like, what do we do to reach those individuals? Now we have social media, so that's why I love with you. You're on there, you're consistent, but if it's someone that go to your page, a young boy who don't know who you are, what are you doing to connect to those individuals?
I just try to be as transparent as I can, and just and keep it real. You know, I've had people walk up to me and say, "Hey, I appreciate what you said the other day." You know, no likes, no comment, no nothing, but that tells me that even though it's not really about likes and comments, it's about, you know, the engagement, who you're impacting, and who sees it. So just being transparent, and like I said, keeping it real.
Nice. I love it. What's one of your favorite quotes to live by?
Don't just be good for something. Yeah.
Powerful. I don't have nothing to say after that, y'all. Please make sure you get this book. Phenomenal story. Hit them before they hit you. Where can they, I'm going to have Kelvin tell you where you can find the books, where they can find you on social media, and any final words.
No, like I said, I really appreciate you. I'm proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
I'm proud of you. I appreciate the work you're doing. I've been keeping up with you, and I appreciate the invite to the A. We traveled up this morning just to be here, and like I said, I'm really enjoying it. I'm glad to be here. But you can find my, excuse me, you can check out my website at www.kevinwaites.com. That's www.keelvinwaites.com. You can order my book through there. You can order my book on Amazon. You can find me on social media. I'm on Instagram. I'm kevin.waites.5. I'm on Facebook, Kevin Waites, or Waites Lifted Life and Leadership Coaching. But go to my website. Learn more about what I do. Reach out to me, send me an email. I promise you I'll hit you right back. I love people. I love engaging people. And I believe that everyone has greatness in them. Sometimes we just got to go deep to find it.
Nice.
And I'm willing sometimes, you know, in most cases, to go on that journey with you.
Nice. Guys, you heard it here. Thank you for tuning in to SheThoro. Stay tuned.